Monday morning.
Recording in progress.
Make motion to adjourn.
I call the meeting to order. This meeting properly noticed.
Yes, it was.
Okay, clerk will take roll.
All members are present.
And the agenda before us, I have motion to approve. Supervisor Barkey. Second by Supervisor Paylor. Discussion or questions on the agenda? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed signify by saying nay. And is approved. Minutes from July 14th. For motion to
So move.
Scott Pease, second by Supervisor Rick Pease. Any discussion or question on the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed signify by saying nay. Minutes are approved. We'll allow public participation as it moves through. Correspondence.
I have none.
Okay, treasurer's report.
Good morning. Before I get to the report, I'm just gonna do a quick update on what's going on in our office. Of course, we've been really busy with the taxes. Today's the last day officially for people to pay in-house by 4:30, and then we'll start settlement. So we'll be dishing out some money in the next couple of weeks, well, a week or so, to get that done. In our fiscal year end will be September 1st for that. Next week, property committee will get the final numbers for our tax deed foreclosure. It went amazing this year. We are down to probably having 7 or 8 properties sold to sell. That's just like unheard of. So it's a good thing, bad thing, not so good on our interest and penalty in the long run for ourselves, but it's great for the people, and the tax has been really good. And I think, oh, and come September 3rd, we will be updating our tax program as we had set up for with ARPA funds to do that. So after September 3rd, after the fiscal rollover, we will have a new program out there for the county. Hopefully it'll go well. So any questions on the report or anything like that?
Jenny on that Dropbox. That
Oh,
worked out extremely.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. I thank you, ARPA and county board people, for doing that. I know I've wanted one for a long time. It has been utilized like crazy. When Bill put it up a couple weeks ago, we've had something in it every day. And then once taxes now are done, we'll get the right sign up, because there'll be other departments that are also going to utilize that. So it's been great.
That being said, so you can cut down on like one employee in your office.
Now we can do the rest of the work.
What do I want to know on this?
I have a question.
Oh, you said, excuse me. What was you talking about? Just you started about if they pay their taxes today or pay something.
There's a 5-day grace period that the state implemented about 5-6 years ago. We don't talk about it really loud, but obviously we do. But they technically have 5 business days after the 31st. So it's postmarked by July 31st or in hand to our office by the 5th business day at 4:30. So that's put us a week behind. That's why settlement gets, the window just went a week shorter for us to get our legal.
God, I could have waited.
Number. Yes, you could have. You could have had another couple of weeks of interest on that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I have 2 questions. We'll go back to the lockbox. So if you drop in at 4:30, are you going to take everything out of there, and then anybody pick up tomorrow morning will be?
Yep.
Okay. Second question is,
We do the same thing for the credit cards. We check it at 4:30, make the report. We do the same thing.
the second one is, one community bank has 5.27%, but the one community bank CDs are only 4.11.
Kyle Kenny said he set up those accounts at CDs prior to CDs. So the interest rate that was agreed upon are just on the base general accounts, where they go higher, 16 points above the.
And they can go lower at their.
And they can go lower.
And these are just set.
Yeah, these are 2-year CDs.
Okay.
Any shorter than that?
We do with PMA. There's stuff that matures, and we're trying to get it so we have maturities like every couple of months with PMA.
Okay. Further, Move on then to the IT report.
Morning, everybody. Are any questions on this month's report?
I think everyone wants to thank you for what Cynthia put in her report about coming in, basically working all night. And whatever your staff did, or if it was just you, congratulations to get everything working as quickly as you did for the county. Thank you.
Rick, what is that number 9? July 7th, laser, whatever the heck it is.
Laserfiche update. Laserfiche is the program that they use to scan all the documents in for HR for records retention. So they don't have to keep paper copies.
Okay.
Thanks, Rich. We'll move on then to human resource reports.
Again, I have a question about resignation compared to retirement. Diane Reed was, I'm assuming, a retirement, but it says resignation on there. I mean, went to a retirement party, so I would think that would be a retirement. So kind of similar to my question last month about some of the staff, and then you wrote back and said they were all resignation. So I think
Yeah. Okay, I was gonna figure out who's the master keeper of information.
All right, I have a question. I see that there's a position that resigned in the front office of the solid waste department. Is that going to be filled, or is it being evaluated, or what are we doing with the positions?
That was a cut. Yeah. That wasn't a resign.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was later.
That one was the planned one. That we were, there was, I think, 5 drivers and 1 office staff that were.
Okay. So my question's still there. That is going to be cut and not replaced.
Right.
Okay.
I'm not sure there was work anniversaries. I can't believe Carol would. It's 30 years.
Mm-hmm. She's not. Shortly after
they were
birth.
giving it to them.
After birth, she started here.
They get some money.
I got one more question. I noticed you hired an assistant manager to change. Well, the assistant manager transferred to confidential assistant. Did you say you were going to get 2 of those, or that it, or?
That's it. That's basically Tabitha, the position Tabitha had.
Okay. So they'll work under the human resource?
No, underneath.
Under you? Okay.
Yep.
And I think that's how it was designed with
It was
Daisy
supposed to,
here.
yes. Yep.
That's how it was.
Yeah, it was kind of a shared position.
Right.
So are all the hires from the solid waste, them are all, how can I put it, all done? There were, I hear in the community that others are wanting to jump on other townships. Is there a possibility that there is going to be other townships that are going to get garbage collection, or? I don't know if that's a human resource question or not.
That right?
Yeah, well, Springville awarded it to LRS. We did put bids in with Town of Easton and Town of Newchester. We haven't done any contracting yet with those.
When you say bids, is that person actually gonna go through meetings with the bid, or you just submitted it and with no? I know it happened in one other place where they had a bid in and they didn't go with Adams County because that person wasn't there to answer the questions. I think what we should do is make sure someone said, whether we gotta compensate them to go to those meetings or not.
I'd say something on that. I highly commend Charlie. He was at every one of our town board meetings, giving a report. We had a lot of people. LRS came through with less money than the county, and we had a lot of people that are still very, very upset about what happened with the county services being done to. We had people literally sitting in our meetings telling us that we go with the county, blah blah blah.
I'll be at the Town of Easton meeting on August 21st. Okay, for theirs.
I believe Easton has agreed.
Yeah, I don't think they've made it official.
With that being said, so we have enough staff to cover those right now that we won't need to hire no more staff.
Yeah.
My last question is that if other people, other townships come along.
I don't think there's too many more left, are there?
There is. At least
No.
all the ones on the east, northeast.
I've been in contact with most of the town chairs.
Yeah.
Newchester will probably be the only one that's going to be it.
What about Preston? You guys talked earlier, thinking about it.
Well, I don't think they've reached out. Any time recently.
Talking, Scott, I don't know if it is. So we've got your assistant there, confidential assistant. Got to see that. What about this one, HR? How's that going to be handled?
Which, what do you mean, HR, the director?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, so you're, again, how's it being handled? How's it going to be handled?
It's restructured. Before there were duties, before that position or department was created, the duties were handled by certain personnel within the county. And so now it's gone back to those personnel that used to handle it before.
So you won't have. Okay, so
There's
are
no.
they gonna answer to you as a manager, or are they? How's it being orchestrated?
So the HR is totally restructured. So I've stepped up and I've taken on some roles myself as it pertains to employee, you know, the retention, recruitment and all of that now falls on me. So exit interviews are being done by me. That way I know what's going on. Before I was kind of left out of the loop. And now it's like tail wagging the dog trying to figure out where the issues are, which I am going to touch on in closed session. About some things.
Okay, I can wait.
Yeah. As part of my review, just so you know, but challenges I face.
Okay.
But yes, I've taken on some roles. Ruth Cordash has taken on some as it relates to health and human services. Carol Wood has taken on some that makes sense with the FMLA, you know, workers' comp, that stuff that's related to benefits. It all makes sense. And they weren't like, you're doing this, you're doing this. Everybody says, hey, I can do this. Okay, everybody kind of just jumped in.
Yes.
Yeah, turn mine off. I was on. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, you all grab your phone and blast it off. Hours. My question, so you kind of answered my question. So if somebody has an insurance question, they're going to Carol Wood.
Yes.
And the people in the county know she's more or less the benefits specialist.
Yes.
I only want to ask this because I know people called my office to ask when people were gone and stuff. So who, if somebody does, say one of my staff is going to put in a resignation, who do I really don't know who I contact first. Is it going to be a confidential assistant or you? Because Carol is doing the benefits part.
Yeah, so
we honestly, in all honesty, if you could re-verify that out there,
yeah,
that would be great.
yeah. So we have a meeting coming up because I now have the position filled. We're going to be talking again about who's doing what now that we have permanent people in seats. And we did have an on-call person that was handling like the HR report here. So now somebody that's permanent FTE is going to be handling all this.
Could you report back this maybe like the structure of that? I mean, you know, who's in each position, because that's confusing to me.
Okay. Fair enough.
You want to show them the diagram that we already have?
It might change. There is a diagram already set up for who's doing what, but it was communicated to the employees and department heads. So I can bring something like that that's more concrete now that we have a permanent position.
Next meeting, okay.
Right. Okay.
Anything else? HR.
We'll call it HR duty report.
And we'll move on to council's report.
Any questions on my report?
Follow up on an employee in your office.
I'll be meeting with someone this afternoon. So hopefully we can get that filled.
The one that you thought was gonna fall through, or?
Yeah, she had accepted the offer, given her notice to her employer, and then they upped her salary quite a bit, so.
Oh. Winky, I see it's now discussion motion. At what point do we say the cost of this for the county as for your time and stuff compared to maybe us plowing that lot? I mean, what is there any cost benefit factor here that maybe we just give in and leave it? Okay.
No, we're better off staying where we're at.
Okay.
If we do one, other things may come up in
Yes.
the future and we don't want to get caught.
Okay. I'm just wondering, it just seemed like it carried on and on motion, but
Yeah, the motions have been filed for some time. There were just several of them that had to be done, and now the court just needed some months to review them. So hopefully we'll have the answer and be done with it.
okay.
Okay. Nothing else on the clerk's report.
Any questions?
Done. Very done. Move on to the county manager's report.
Thank you, Ms. Chair, and good morning. So start out with appreciations. Did a pretty detailed report there on a recent weather event on July 28th. In the late evening, that caused a number of employees having to jump into action. Bill Reynolds and Rich Hucker mentioned, and they had to fix a few things, and all that stuff is mentioned and what they did and what was entailed in it. And at the very end, I do recognize that, you know, Pat Kedlowski, the sheriff, and also Jane Munstervis also had some things, some involvement there with the recent events. So accolades to Rich Huck and Bill Reynolds, and thank you for a job well done. Under capital projects, Veterans Memorial, the wall has been poured. And we're still waiting for the cap to be poured and also some landscaping to be done, as you see in that picture there. There's obviously some landscaping that's needed. And the roof, that's anticipated for the end of November. Fairgrounds, the end of October. The parks Wi-Fi, we're looking at early 2024. Could be earlier, depending upon when power gets to a pole. County Highway CC project, I touched on that. It was a bid process. They're going with the pulverize and pave versus the mill and overlay. And the STPR, which is the Surface Transportation Program rule for County Z is mentioned there. One on page 3, we touched on earlier about the new confidential administrative assistant. So please welcome Macy Glavin into that position. And I'm very happy to have her as a member of our team. Solid waste extended hours. So we're doing this to better serve our commercial customers and also our citizens. So I think there was a question earlier about can we do these new routes without hiring new? Yes, because our routes are, the route hours are being extended. ATV, UTV, there's a special thank you from the town of Rome, and I copied it there. And next I touch on office moves. Some of these are temporary spots, some permanent. And if we move on to page 4, the Adams County Visionary Community Network, this we had great attendance for this meeting. And we did break out into our little subgroups as well. Again, very productive, and a lot of things are moving now. Seems like, you know, boots are hitting the pavement here. Next, I touch on the board retreat. So mark your calendar for August 28th at 5 p.m. I'm hoping that this is only an hour. The agenda is still in the works. Still kind of putting things together. It is going to be a training coming from WCA mostly. It's not going to be going into the activities that I did last year. More of a board training. On page 5, I touch on the department head retreat. That's scheduled for September 28th. And I also touch again on the WCA, that's the Wisconsin Counties Association annual conference, September 17th to 19th. Is that window closed now for them to?
The early bird.
Okay, so the early bird is closed. They're still going, and I think those pictured to the right are the same ones coming this year. So I grabbed that photo from last year. I forgot to post it in my report, but used it this year. Other than that, I just kind of touch on little meetings I've had throughout the month. And of course, that did include a week and a half of vacation. So still very busy. Are there any questions on the report?
Under the roof project, the contract has been signed by all parties. What parties are them?
Oh, and who's the vendor on that? How do you happen to know?
Jerry.
They're out of market, I don't know that.
Who okayed it?
Property and rent.
Because we discussed that building, and I know it never came before that committee as to who was gonna take the lead on it and whatnot. So
We just I can't think of the name of the company right now.
how many bids were put in?
4, I believe, and we went with the lowest bid per Bill Reynolds. We kind of followed his lead on it. He said everything was qualified, you know, as far as the ability to handle the job and whatnot, time factor and all that.
That's the same one. I don't mean to interrupt you, but Adams Bank, we did that, right?
I believe they did.
Yep. I think that's good.
Adams Bank or the city garage?
City garage.
Okay.
I knew what they meant.
Bank garage.
I have a question. Well, actually, I have a statement. It was really good to see the new hours for the solid waste. I actually used them this morning. I would hope they could continue that early mornings all the way through the year and not stop at least. I've always said it was hard for somebody who was working a 8 to 4 or 9 to 5 job to get to the landfill to get their garbage done. And even though in the summer it helped, but in the winter, you go around the county, you see people throwing stuff on the trailer all the time, and it would sit all winter. So hopefully this will help some people get to the landfill. So whoever thought of those hours, really good thing first before I have to call it.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I believe we do have those conversations going on about how to best serve our, and we are looking at that. Pros and cons.
Yes.
Regarding that, I'm gonna go to Fort Downs.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
410s as it relates to two different scheduled teams, I guess. You have your Monday through Thursday personnel, then you have your Tuesday through Friday personnel. But the solid waste hours are still all week. We just have different.
So they're already on 410s.
Depending on the team that you're, yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Hold on a second, Scott. Regarding the cap, is that as of today, that still hasn't been done?
Oh, boy.
I mean,
I'm gonna say.
that's what you gave in your report.
Yes, so this, this closes at July 31st, so there could have been some progress. I don't think that I saw that this picture I took was like last week. Thanks, great.
So the hours that are open Saturday, those people are getting paid overtime, or is that they take part of the day off to work this Saturday?
I don't believe it's overtime. I think that they're scheduling the drivers Tuesday through Thursday. So they've got 3. What happens is that they're able to service more customers. The fact that we haven't spread it out for 5 days, 8-hour shifts. We have 3 days that are 10, and they can get more, service done on those shifts. It's my understanding is that Saturday is just, that's a skeleton crew on Saturday, right? You only need one office, one, I guess on the landfill, but it's a skeleton. The scales.
Just the scale.
Just the scale, and there's one other person.
Continues.
Yeah, so it's a skeleton crew that's on a Saturday.
In the past, they took off part of the day or whatever. That's why they alternated.
I just want to consider it's going to cost us more.
Okay, nothing else there. Project status approved. Yeah, somebody.
Mr. Chair. Yeah. One kind of major update is the preliminary net new construction is 2.42%, which is about $450,000 more that the county is able to levy for 2024 budget. And that I highlighted there, were there any other questions on that?
And we got those numbers per township where those numbers are, or is it pretty much mirror what it was last year?
There's some changes. Town of Rome wasn't as big for net new construction. They were like 4%, something like that. But if you go on the Department of Revenue's website and look up net new construction, you can see how it is there.
Because it came up during our budget last year when people, because they had got the majority of that money, they thought they should have more police protection and things. So I kind of like to see those numbers.
We never get that.
We don't got that report. Yeah, I can put the net new construction on the agenda for next month and we can review that.
That'd be good.
Thanks, yeah. We typically review it all as part of the one as well. Okay. I think I kind of deliberated my presentation.
They're not finalized yet. They preliminary numbers.
It's preliminary. I think they're finalizing on this week.
Okay.
But they never really changed. Okay.
Just wanted to note on the county clerks, we did order the wireless modems and the where the stuff will all come right directly to our office the night of the election.
Once they close on. Okay.
How does that
Runs
work?
through Verizon.
So it's the phone line. Okay.
And we signed the contract with Verizon also.
Right.
You have a question for Rick? Okay.
I have one more item, just trying to see if it's on the project. Okay, so an item that needs to be on the project report is the wage study. And Jeff, can I talk about it?
Yes.
Oh, boy. So we had to fire the vendor. And they were missing deadlines, unprofessional. I'm not gonna get into a lot of the detail, but we had to fire them. And I did talk to Jeff before doing so, because I knew what it was gonna cause as far as the budget process. So it needs to be on here as a project. Again, we do have a resolution out there that says go forward to do a wage study. So I'll be putting bids out there again. It will not be in time for the 24 budget. So we will have to talk about what the CPI adjustment will need to be for wages. Do a little bit more research, but yeah, so what happened? You know, why did someone fail? I'll talk about it as a personnel related item when you do my evaluation. How's that? Oh, it's not gonna cost us any money. No contract was signed. Yeah, it's.
What were they out of?
All over. Tennessee, I think, is where she lives. CEO.
I'll go into a little bit more detail, so it's not open, you know, like I don't wanna talk about the shortcomings.
For work report.
Yeah. So the voting machine resolution, Lana, I think, went through and purchased those machines, and they ended up costing less than what was anticipated. I think we had additional machines quoted on there, and we didn't purchase them all. Not all the towns needed that many. That's that accurate?
Correct.
So I updated that expense on there, and now we're right around just under $43,000 remaining if all of these projects cost what was anticipated.
Plus we got the grant back.
Oh, yeah, they got the grant. I have that added right up at the top. You can see that all the way at the top right there, the $9,000 from the election equipment that we had purchased last year.
No, this year.
This year.
2023.
So does that mean there's 52,000?
No, I got that added in there as well. It's calculating it into the 42,000 there.
Are we anticipating any other persons either not spending their money or coming in under what we suggested?
Yes. The youth engagement and truancy issues, that one, that was like one of the first ones. HHS is using other funding before spending the ARPA dollars, so they're using grant funds before spending ARPA.
Well, there would be an end to this. I think the county board said it the best.
We'll get to that.
It's
on the agenda.
That's a resolution.
Ready. Yes, we're ready too.
Yeah, but you won't know if them funds are still hanging out there, you know, are going to be there, aren't going to be used to.
We got to fix.
Maybe Bob, we could put that at public hearing service and we'll talk.
Don't buy a farm.
Then we have a method.
We'll move on to the quarterly report. Yeah. I'm not sure if everybody had a chance to look at it. I didn't realize the permissions weren't set so everybody could view it. But since this is as of June 30th, 2023, any revenues that are under 50%, I do have a comment on there. And then any expenses that are over 50%, there is a comment. So on the revenues one right now. So there's just a couple that I kind of highlighted. Medical examiner would be down a little further, Lana.
No, I went to expenses. Do you want me on expenses?
Revenues.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, so
The yellow.
yeah, the yellow ones is what you're looking for right there. Oh no, that's sheriff. You got to scroll it up.
Well,
Sorry, good job. There we go. Yep, right there. So medical examiner, that one's like under 50%. So I have a note on there. So the number of deaths so far this year is lower. So right around 44% is reasonable, but we do kind of just need to pay attention as that trend continues, and we need to adjust the 2024 budget amounts for them. Roll down some more. Treasurer's department, interest on taxes, penalties on taxes, and the treasurer fees I have notes on, but Janie's kind of touched on this already in that we have a lot less tax deed foreclosures and people being behind on their payments, but the interest revenue or interest income is more than making up for the shortcoming. She's already exceeded her revenue target for the year. Overall, the sheriff's department under electronic monitoring, we may not hit that revenue target for this year. Last year it wasn't achieved as well, so we're probably going to end up adjusting it going forward. But the sheriff's department has numerous different revenue sources that may be able to end up covering this. Scrolling down further.
Can we ask a question?
Yes, sir.
What county contract comes on this year or next year? This year.
And it's our understanding that they're not going to be reviewing that.
They're building their own jail, right?
Yeah, they have their own jail that I every now and then.
So we're taking that into consideration.
What is that estimated loss of revenue?
The estimated loss of
$24.
$191,629.
But we had growth. So
What was that? Last part?
we've had growth.
Growth in what?
Net new construction.
Net new construction.
So
Well, you think that 400,000 is going to help that?
It'll help that, but not the wages and that.
yes.
Now expenses, Kyle.
Yeah, you can go to expenses. Treasurers is the first one that I have a note on. So that's where all the payouts are to the prior property owners on all the tax deed foreclosures from last year. We're having a budget amendment for this.
I have a little question. And I don't know if any other ones experienced this. When I clicked on that link, I was denied access. I could not go through this first. Is there a reason?
Yeah, I didn't have the permission set properly. I updated them this morning about 6:30. Do we want to solid waste also? So this is where they're at through June 30th. One thing to note for the expenses, we have not expensed fuel yet. I'm working with Charlie on expensing that out. Right now it's sitting in an asset account for all the fuel purchases we've made. So all the consumption of fuel has not been reported yet. And then there's also depreciation expenses, insurance allocation, long-term care and closure costs, and pension expenses that need to be recognized by year end as well. Right now, it looks like they're showing a net profit of about 466,000, but they still have a cash deficit.
Mr. Chairman. Yes. Where did the money come from that we paid the individuals that retired?
Mr. Chair? Yes, it came out of the solid waste operating fund, but they had a cash deficit. So essentially it came from the general fund as along to the solid waste.
So it'll be in the expenses here.
Yeah. Yeah. This was before all the payments. So June 30th is the report on this.
So are we expecting about the same amount of the deficit at the solid waste for this year as usual, and then we'll see the gain next year?
Yeah, I don't believe that the cash deficit is expected to grow this year. And the plan is that they're gonna become profitable in 2024, and we're gonna budget for no tax levy in 2024 for the solid waste department. A little better picture of how it's all gonna work out after it's been a few months at solid waste.
So quarterly, we'll know, have a better idea.
Yeah, maybe next quarter.
Yes.
So when you were just talking, I think you mentioned 460-some thousand or whatever that. And that is not a deficit right now. That is to the good. But the fuel isn't in there. And also the labor isn't in there. Those that are being cashed out. Right.
Yeah, the labor's not in it. I think those payouts, yeah, they happened in July, early July. There were 2 that happened in this report, but there were others that happened in July.
And the fuel, is that, we have tanks out there?
Mhm.
And so that's bid out. Or is, you filling those tanks?
As far as what?
Filling those tanks? I'm talking about storage tanks.
Yeah, the storage tanks.
Yeah, I
So
assume you get, I don't know what size they are, but
I think it's like 10,000 gallon.
Sounds right.
Above ground, sure, yeah. I didn't find out exactly the process that they go through. I know that they switch vendors at the end of, were you here for that? The end of 2020, they switched vendors because they were getting a better rate.
Yeah.
I would suggest that that's a every year occurrence. And that certainly varies a lot.
I agree with you.
What is fuel company? I don't know if this is a foolish question. How does fuel company possibly get something for a year
Rack rate.
when we all know what the fuel prices do?
No.
Yeah, it'd be the rack rate. Basically, they're saying we'll give you this much off of the current rate.
We'll probably do that in conjunction with the highway department, so we have more volume. The more volume we have, better negotiate. So we're trying to consolidate all of our vendors countywide for that purpose.
I have a question. When we talk about well, we're looking at about 20 positions that are currently not filled at the county. When we put that on the budget, we just act like they're here, correct? And including the benefits and everything.
Budget them at the 2-year rate with family insurance.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
That's called vacant funded positions. If they're vacant, we intend to fill them, so we fund them. Vacant funded positions.
Do you ever put in there like how many you think are going to stay vacant, or you just leave them just like that?
Mr. Chair, we have an estimate of the, and it comes from the department heads, right? They drive a need to fill their vacancies, so we will budget for that. We'll challenge vacancies, you know.
Mr. Chair, how long do the vacancies stay on before you decide to drop them?
Mr. Chair, that is up to the department head. We're working with the department head. How likely is it to fill it? Right now, one of the efforts that we've done is that when we advertise for the positions, it's now continuous. There is no end date to shut a window for filling vacancies. It is now, most of these positions are continuous because we have such high turnover, which I will address in the closed session.
So the other question I have then is, so after 6 months, do we allocate the money that those positions are to somewhere else? Because we obviously didn't spend that money, or what do we do with that money that stopped being spent in that current year?
Mr. Chair, that's essentially how our unassigned fund balance grows in the general fund, because we have these vacant positions. We don't plan on spending the money, and we haven't spent the money. Positions were vacant. So our unassigned fund balance grows roughly $1 million a year.
Based on those.
Yeah, most of it's because of unfilled positions.
Does that money always stay in that account, or do you use it for other things?
As part of the 2023 budget, we transferred some of the unassigned fund balance to the capital funds to fund capital projects. And our intention is to do the same thing in 2024 if we have any unassigned fund balance in excess of 30%, 25 to 30% of budgeted expenditures.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, so one thing I'll add to that, although the expenditures aren't there, the revenues have to be there, right? So if you're budgeting revenues and you see there's a decrease in revenue, perhaps we were okay because we had a decrease in expense because we didn't fill positions. So we don't really project to have excess, right?
Yeah, and really we don't want.
Nope,
Right.
it's supposed to be balanced.
Yeah.
Revenues in, then
Right.
expenses. Zero base.
But it helped.
Yes.
Nothing else on the reports, so we'll move on to the resolutions. First one's resolution to amend the 2023 budget.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
So this is just increasing the interest income in the treasurer's department by $400,000 and increasing the general property sale loss expense by $400,000. And that's because of the state law change. I think I referenced it in the resolution that we have to pay out tax deed foreclosures in excess of what was back taxes and labor and everything. So the treasurer's office was over on the general property sale loss on the quarterly report. So that's why we're adjusting that. We bumped it up to $400,000 to give her a little cushion because she was only at $170,000 in current year activity, but she's got to pay out this year's tax deed foreclosures. Well,
And that's from the crossover from last year to this year. So technically, we had those funds last year, we just didn't pay them.
okay.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Supervisor Rick P, second by Supervisor Scott Peach to move the resolution forward to county board. Discussion or question? Supervisor Parsons, Supervisor Perry.
So where does this money go? Back to the property owner?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the money that we pay out goes back to the property owners, anything. So if there's $1,000 in outstanding taxes on a property and we tax deed foreclose on it and we advertise it and sell it and we get $5,000, $4,000 goes back to the previous owner.
Like your limited numbers, but I don't think that's practical on a lot of things. All right, so given that fact, we are now becoming a real estate.
That was a big discussion when this came across all the court council and that with the counties association.
So these people in Madison are sitting in chairs. They have a clue what the hell's going on.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, you're gonna.
You want to answer that?
I was gonna add to Jeff's comments too. Also with the tax deed foreclosure process, I believe it then eliminates any lien holders on the property. So if they had if bank was a lien holder, it eliminates that lien holder. And then we pay it to the property owner, even though they had an outstanding loan balance.
Actually, I think we can go back to the lien on the mortgage holder can make a claim for it.
Yeah, but prior to that, they are out,
Okay.
they've given the information, so if they want to come in and foreclose on it themselves, they have that opportunity, they just have to pay us. But at the time, it's true, if there's liens on it, the process does say when it's foreclosed on a court order. So when they say at the time of the sale, pay the lien holder first, and then if there's leftovers, there's no liens. So right now, we take it as it goes to the persons.
Right.
After 5 years, if they don't cash the check and it comes back to us, we can get to keep it, but we have to wait 5 years for that.
Okay, I just, quick question for Danny. We do figure in all our expenses. So we don't lose any money on court costs or your labor or anything like that.
Correct. We are able to do that now with this news. So we get our minimum, but yes, we don't get anything extra. for doing. Yeah, we are their real estate agents.
If a person had a number of liens on their property, they could essentially have it foreclosed on and go buy it back from the county or from whoever, and they would be like starting over new with no liens or nothing on it.
Yes. Yeah, if they happen, I mean, they have the opportunity to bid on it just like everybody else. If they're the winning bidders, that they get their money back. I mean, there's a lot of scenarios to this. They could get their money back and not have that, unless, yeah.
I like Bob's way of saying it. Anybody in Madison?
Supervisor Marcy, did you have another comment?
And I'd like Kyle to answer it.
Typically, these properties have more lien than value. But given that fact that you don't have to distribute this among lien holders, which becomes impractical in a lot of cases, such as the orders and so forth. This one is terrible.
But paying your taxes might be profitable.
I clicked that about 3 years.
Also, you'll be on next year.
You'll be one of the 7 or 8.
What's for that bank?
We got the motion to move the resolution forward. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, signify by saying nay.
Nay.
Okay, noted.
Mr. Chair, before you go on, can I ask one more question about the revenues? What is the impact on the state budget that they're going to give back to our county? You have that in there, a number?
We got the highest percentage increase.
The shared revenue.
Yeah, the shared revenue. So shared revenue, we got the highest percentage increase of any county. It was almost 2,000% increase. However, we were getting like 18,000, so it's not much of an increase.
It's 300.
Yeah, it's close to 300,000.
Up from 18.
Yeah,
Because it's getting the sales tax.
that's significant.
It was needed.
So you did good on that one, Bob.
I think roughly 3.
Thank you for that.
Okay.
The internet was faster. Here it is. $357,000.
Up from 18.
Thank you. Okay. Are you coming back?
And the long part, that's
Okay.
They're all on this list.
Next, resolution, they have voting holidays to personnel manual.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to have that taken off the agenda because you just walked out. I talked to Jeff about that and he said I was within my authority to go ahead and do something like that without it having to go to board. It's just a floating holiday. What I mean by that, we have these 2 410s, right? And you'll have some of the solid waste that works Tuesday to Friday, but Monday is a recognized holiday at the county. That team would get a floating holiday because of that to be used within the fiscal year. If they were to leave, get terminated, that does not get paid out to them. Floating holiday has to be used, okay? And same thing's happening at highway too, because they are going to 410s, right?
Year
So
round.
there's
No.
year round.
Oh, yeah.
So if there's a holiday, there's going to be a floating holiday with them as well.
8 hours.
8 hours, yes. I believe that's what it is, right? Solid waste would be 8 hours. Yeah, because they're 2080. Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
is that by the discretion of the manager? Or the department head? I mean?
So I'm told by Jeff that I kind of like set the policy. The department head has to keep track of the floating holiday. We still have to work out the parameters of it. You know, how do we track this stuff? How do we know who's used what's available? And then the one situation is year end. So if they have to use it by the end of the fiscal year, which is December 31st, you have Christmas and, you know, all of that. How can they use it in that short of time? So we're kind of looking at front loading, do like a January through June, any holidays that float within there would become a floating, they'd have to use it in the 6 months. So we're still trying to figure out how to get this to work. But anyway, I'm within my authority to do that, like set up something with the department heads as far as floating holiday. It'll be fair.
It's kind of not my question. My question was, they might have 5 guys that want the day before Christmas off or something like that, or say it's even in the middle of it's his discretion per seniority. I take it that you can only have so many people off in at a certain time. So it'll be up to them to limit those.
So, Mr. Chair, it would be the department head, just like a vacation, you know, like this particular individual can't have vacation because someone else might. That's a department head decision, as to whether they do it on seniority or the team just gets together and they figure out who's taking what time off.
I think that should be adjusted in the policy though, or whatever you're gonna write up, that it's at the discretion of the department head.
Okay. So that's off the agenda.
Yeah.
A resolution to commit the balance of ARPA funds that are uncommitted to that or that were committed and under budget for the Adams County splash pad.
Mr. Chair, so the last meeting we had, there were 2 comments made on the floor, one by Supervisor Krug, another one by Supervisor Dozel, to use the balance. At that time, it was 18,000, if I remember right, but now it's 22,000. It's 42 now. We just want to be done. What this causes, you know, we have the work group meeting and there's a certain process, and it's best to just, I mean, it's going to a good project. Why not be the splash pad? Right now we have 200,000 of ARPA going towards the splash pad. I'm getting the feeling the city is going to match their ARPA. I'm not saying that to commit. I'm saying this is what I'm hearing, that they're in favor of matching. We just have to work out this memo of understanding on who's doing what. So if we could just use the reserve, whatever is left in there, and be done with bringing this forward, it seemed like that was brought up earlier today.
I'm very concerned about the last paragraph where it says whatever the balance would be. As Kyle mentioned earlier, there could potentially end up being a lot of this money coming back to ARPA. And so far, we don't even have a commitment from the city. So I don't know if it's at this time. I mean, you could end up with $100,000, $200,000 more coming back to ARPA to automatically say that was the splash pad. Now you're taking the city away from ownership on it. I think that last paragraph should be struck or limited. You know, at the time that was mentioned at the county board, there was only $19,000. It could potentially end up being 100,000, 200,000.
Mr. Chair.
On that note, I think Jerry makes a very good point regarding that. And you have 2 voices on the county board. That's 10% of the board. That's not exactly a majority. I would certainly, if they want it out of their hair, I understand that. However, at what date do we have this committed by? Is it the end of this year?
20.
End of 24 committed. And I'm in no rush.
Sure.
Yes.
I'm in agreement with these 2. I think that there's going to be some maintenance. I think the splash pad can go forward the way it is. I think there's going to be some maintenance costs in the years down the road that if we can't do it right away, we'll earmark it for that. But I agree with them.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So I want to talk about the cost of the splash pad. When I went out and got my estimates, those splash pads were constructed in 2019. It is now 2023. We know what the price of even concrete is. So 200,000 is probably not going to go very far. If they match 400,000, probably not going to go very far. I think the last splash pad, what was it, Kyle? Did you say 1.2 million?
Mr. Chair.
And what size that one was?
City will pack that they just completed a splash pad this year. But they did play structures and everything like that. And it looks like they did precast concrete structure. It was 1.47 million.
Mr. Chair, I've heard nobody go out for public funding on this yet, so I'd like to see some of that before we commit any more money to it.
I pretty much agree with what Scott said. So far, there's been no, the city hasn't even taken ownership of it yet. There have been no estimates on bids or anything. I think we should leave it at 200,000 until such time that somebody comes back with concrete numbers and the fact that what the city's going to pay, what the county is going to pay, and at that time address it again.
Mr. Chair, how about this? How about instead of committing right here that I can at least put this money in a reserve and then we can kind of gauge where it's going to end up, and then kind of like earmark is what I'm trying to say. It's not officially committed, but to earmark it so that we know what we're dealing with final numbers. And the holdup with the city right now is to get this memo of understanding, because we don't want to invest our 200,000 if I don't know what the city is willing, how much work they're willing to do. And part of the process is once that MOU is set, and most likely the county is the one that's going to be going out to help them get an engineer in here, if that'll be part of the 200,000. We don't know what it's going to cost us. It's hard for them to commit, but I'm letting you know that my feeling that I'm getting is that it's going to at least be a match on the city plus outreach efforts. There's a number of places we're going to ask for donations, but we're trying to assist them in any way we can in that process, because one of the holdups is having personnel on their side.
Too ready for it.
Personally, I see no reason to earmark this either, not at this point in time. I really don't. I mean, it's in a reserve right now. So I don't see any purpose why we would want to earmark it for something, given that we have. I'm not anxious.
I mean, if we just leave it in the ARPA funds, the ARPA work group that really doesn't have to, right, just tell them that there's no money, it's money there available right now, because we have that intention, maybe. Let's just maybe just let it see. I mean, that's what it seems like the discussion around the table is. Let's just leave it there, and the ARPA work group doesn't have to meet. Right.
Table this resolution or just take no action?
I just think no action.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
We put it on December 2024.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, that's what it'll be. December. That's the next. December 24 is when we.
I've got a better idea of how much money we have.
Right. I mean, if one of those big projects doesn't go through, I mean, man.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know how much we're back on the truancy thing. That could be.
Right now, it's got $100,000 remaining.
So.
And has the city done anything? Have they taken ownership of it at all?
Yes, and when I say ownership, everyone's in favor. There wasn't anyone that says no, absolutely not.
And have they committed any money or moved forward with any talking to an architect, talking to a builder, anything, getting any pricing, anything?
That's going to be on the county to help with that
I
process.
thought we were just donating to the city, and all of a sudden we have total ownership of it.
No, not ownership. I'm willing to assist them in the bid process. One of the earlier complaints was with Public Works, saying that they don't have enough personnel to do. They've got other projects that are going on at the parks, and that's when I said I will help. I will help. No.
Yeah.
They're looking at their options,
Mhm.
and things and how they can go about it. They're still in the thinking stage, and I know they are looking at committee. They're asking people to get together on a committee to do the day. That's where they're at. So they're at the baby start.
Mhm. They attempted to set up an ad hoc committee that didn't really go through. I guess it's gonna fall on Public Works. But I do have a meeting on the calendar. It's gonna be either, I believe it's gonna be this week. We had a meeting last week, but someone wasn't on their end, wasn't able to attend in person. And it caused some issues. So anyway, we're going to have a meeting this week, hopefully. I believe it's Thursday.
Yeah, so we'll just,
No.
we'll just leave this resolution.
All right, yes.
You know, and
Yeah, I'm trying to coordinate with Frenchie.
With what?
Frenchie.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is set the next meeting date.
Okay.
No, you put it ahead of the session.
Oh.
Then it'd be done in open session.
And in case I make you change it.
Let's see, oh man.
Look at his calendar.
What? The county board meeting's on the 19th? September? Is the conference done by then?
No, 17, 18, 19.
No, I remember sitting in my room one time, you know, doing the conference.
We have that on there for this month.
What?
We have to discuss that.
If we want to move to the 25th.
17th through the 19th is the conference.
I thought it was done on the 19th at noon.
Might be.
Yeah, it was done.
Yeah. And the ones this month.
Okay. Okay. Oh, man. No, whose canvas is coming on, like the 11th through the 6/13. You? Well, I can do it virtually. I'm gonna be on vacation. I should have. I don't think vacation you were having.
I was gotta be something about it.
He's got a better job than government.
Yeah. You're gonna be in Ducks.
You can't find anybody to replace Ducks, honey. It's his fault.
Can you do it the 11th? Can you do it the 11th?
I can virtually.
They don't have a hurricane.
Yeah, they don't have a hurricane. Why, if I use this iPad, it's got FirstNet with it, so we give first response.
How about September 1st?
What?
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 No, I've got MDM and all
Like
that.
that holiday.
No.
Please.
Talking about admin now.
Yeah, we're just trying to set the date for the meeting.
Might be in the budget timeline too.
Which week are you going to?
We'll be 11.
I don't think.
But I can do it, I can do it, well, it'll just be virtual. That's
Okay.
fine.
You're going on the 8th?
Yeah, what else do you have?
Yeah, I'll be traveling.
It'll be like this on the meet.
We'll get it done. but
If not, I'll be,
not.
yeah, whatever day you want. The 8th is fine, I mean, I can, yeah. Mike can drive, he's capable.
9 o'clock.
Or how about any other day during that first week? I thought he wasn't leaving.
No, I have group health trust in La Crosse on the 6th in the morning, that's not till 2 o'clock, so I could make the morning of the 6th, Wednesday. Or the 7th, I could probably make the 7th work too.
What do you guys want?
Either way,
It's
it's
just one of those.
6th to the 7th.
How about the 6th then?
I'll be done getting my head fried by then. So.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, the 6th?
Wednesday the
That
6th.
was for you guys, from the budget?
9 AM.
Okay.
I was like, I'm gonna have to work.
I'm gonna keep my mouth shut.
What's 2 days? What's 48 hours? So you have to pull all layers like college again. Think of it that way.
Then you can rest.
Okay. Otherwise, I'd look for a motion to convene in closed session for Wisconsin State Statutes 1985 for NC. Excuse me, for the purposes of considering fund promotion compensation. The performance evaluation data of any public employee or which government body has jurisdiction or exercise responsibility discussed and interact on the performance evaluation of the Adams County Manager Administrative Court. Supervisor Motion by second by Supervisor Pease, roll call, Supervisor Taylor.
Yes.
Supervisor Parsky,
Yes.
Supervisor Rick Pease,
Yes.
Scott Pease, yes, and John West says yes.
We need to send out copies.
Let's vote in second.
We
Oh,
do
is it
have,
gonna be that long?
we do have coffee right out there.
That's why it's here, isn't it?
Hear it.
Marge can stay in.
Marge, you can stay,
Yeah,
okay,
she's
just
You
one
only one?
second.
the only,
She's the only person I can see right now. I just have to get it to,
participant list.
I just have to get it to stop recording.
There's coffee up there.